He could feel her rushing towards him. It was dark. She could barely see. He could feel her panic. She was nervous and excited. She was emitting a powerful energy, one that stirred the wind and drew him closer. He sprang to his feet, still able to sense her growing energy. She was running as fast as she could, holding the hem of her dress so she wouldn't trip. Her heart was pounding, ringing in her ears, and then suddenly, there he was, standing in front of her. "Haman," she said, "how do you know they're not watching?" "Not even they are omniscient," he replied. He kissed her. For months he had been watching her, not allowed to go near her. The one thing he longed to do was just to kiss her, to smell her. He buried his head in her neck. Lavender, he thought. Her hair intertwined with his as the wind stole their breath. "Haman," her voice soared past his ear, carried away on the wind. He could still hear the softness of her whisper as he echoed throughout the mountains. Haman held his breath in that moment, exhaling only to make room to breathe her in. "Ina," Haman said as he slid his hand to Ina's belly. "Ina, do you think you can make it?" "I have to. I won't let them take him," she said. "Him? How do you know it's a boy?" asked Haman. "How could I not?" Ina replied. She kissed Haman once again. "We have to get to the Anakim, Haman. Gahiri will protect us," she said. "That means crossing the gate going into Arid, Ina. I don't know if a woman in your condition could go through the gate or should go through the gate," Haman said, steadily rubbing Ina's belly. "Then what?" asked Ina. "We stay here," replied Haman. Ina pushed away from Haman. She walked by him. The grass crackled under her feet. Still holding the hem of her rose-colored dress, she stood on the cliff's edge. There she could see the bounty of her kingdom, earth in all of its glory. Her kingdom was paradise. The thickness of the winter air was rich with the scent of jasmine. "Haman," she said, "we cannot win. We can't leave, Ina. Where would we go? If we go into Arid, you could lose him." "And if I stay here," she says, "I will lose him. I am giving up everything, my entire kingdom, the one you gave me." She turned back around to look at Haman. She ran to him, crumbled in his arms. She was trembling. "Are you cold?" said Haman. "I am not cold, but I am afraid. Haman, we have to get to the gate." "The Amuni, they will never let us pass," said Haman. "Kutopia will," said Ina. "Ina, if you want to do this, then we have to move, and we have to move quickly," said Haman. "Let's go," Ina replied. With a haste, he grabbed her by the hand, and they took off. The both of them, going as fast as their feet could take them through the Sidori Mountains. They ran through the narrow passages, through the low-hanging clouds. Ina could see her breath. She finally stopped to blow on her hands, trying to keep her teeth from chattering. She shouldn't be that cold, thought Haman. He took his black gold-trimmed coat off and wrapped it around her. Ina sat on the ground, holding her belly. Haman sat beside her, cradling her in his arms. "Ina," he started to say. She stopped him. "Haman, I don't think I'm going to make it to the gate." She was breathing so heavily, and she was bent over in pain. Haman immediately picked her up and ran with her. Haman knew he didn't have much time. He ran as fast as he could, floating almost, with Ina in his arms the entire way. He dodged the boulders falling out of the sky, exploding on impact, tearing open the earth that was so beautiful once before. Haman finally made it to Wea. and crossed the convergence of the rivers in the canyon of Andoria. Swimming against the current with Ina on his back, he finally made it to the land. Ina crawled off of Haman and rolled into the cold, muddy bank. She looked up and said, "The gate! Haman, the gate! We made it. Go through. I will meet you on the other side," he said. "What?" Ina said in confusion. "You're not coming with me?" "Ina, look around," Haman said. "Those aren't just rocks falling from the sky. We are under attack. Those are the Nimrahid and Yatan, the galactic council. They're coming for us. I will hold them off here while you get to the other side." "Haman, please don't leave me," she said. Haman walked to her, cradled Ina's face, and kissed her. They were both shivering this time, both wet and tired. They stared at each other, trying to memorize every piece of each other as if they would never see each other again. Haman once again felt Ina's belly. "Take care of my son," he said. Ina could not look at him. She was too afraid. How was she going to survive in the outer world without him, without Ryu, without Jashin? Ina went to speak, but a huge crash shook them both. Ina and Haman immediately stood and glared at the crater made in front of them. Ina was holding onto Haman as tight as she could. Out of the crater climbed a tall, well-built man. His white leather uniform was dirty and burned. He dusted himself off and said, "Haman." Haman looked up and said, "Geen." Haman turned and looked at Ina. She could see the indigo in his eyes beginning to glow. The wind was picking up. She could feel it cutting into her skin. He was summoning his energy. So was Geen. They were preparing for battle. Ina was still holding on to Haman. Haman stared at her intensely and simply said, "Run." Ina gasped. All that pain, jolted by the physical pain of that memory. She held her stomach, trying to quiet the rising panic from the sudden realization that her and Haman had given up everything, and this world was still going to be destroyed. Her kingdom could still not be saved, and the son that Haman so dearly wanted, he could